Hey there, folks. It's me again, Kenton Gibbs, with another episode of Locked On Wolfpack. And there is so much going on with conference realignment that I want to stop talking about it. I really do. I really want to put this to bed. But there's a lot going on that, a lot of people are saying a lot of things. And I want to talk about one person in particular that had all of the internet about what the possible, that we thought a reporter would come out of with the good information, with the good scoop on this story. Who'd have thought it'd be something? Oh man, what a time! What a time conference realignment is, and we're going to get into what was said as well as what makes sense, what doesn't, and how things could transpire on today's episode of Locked On Wolfpack.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, folks. I've been telling people for a while now that, anybody who tells you, oh yeah, I have definite and certain news about realignment is a liar. I've been telling you that for a while now. And this is another example of it. No offense to the gentleman. I don't believe that Braden Keith, I don't know the gentleman, so I'm not going to say what he is or is not. But this is, there are moments where I've gotten information from sources and I haven't, immediately come back to tell y'all, because sometimes the information that I received was nonsensical. It wasn't exactly logical. But I'm going to read the tweet out to you that absolutely sent the college football world into a tailspin from Mr. Keith. Source: North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, and Virginia are all negotiating to join the SEC. ESPN is trying to avoid their TV deal with the ACC. Now, that was the first tweet. There were more tweets to follow this that, again, I think is interesting, to say the least. But here's the follow-up that I think is particularly pertinent here. I've been getting asked a lot about the grant of rights and how it impacts this move. So I started reading the actual grant of rights contract. It explicitly says that the grant of rights existed so that the conference could satisfy its obligation to ESPN. If the TV deal with ESPN goes away, that could give the abandoning schools pretty strong leverage to argue that the grant of rights is also invalid. This could explain why ESPN is trying to end the ACC television deal. So, remember when everybody was making fun of Phillips for how bad the ACC TV deal was with ESPN? Remember when that was a thing? So the premise and belief here is that the ACC is going to have its deal with ESPN ended by ESPN, and as a result of having their deal with ESPN ended by ESPN and having multiple teams absorbed into the SEC, as a consequence and as a direct play from their conference being given to ESPN, or their teams being given to another conference by ESPN, because let's just be honest, that's what it de facto is, okay? Let's say the dominoes fall as this source purports them to be, aligning the fall, okay? Boom. The grant of rights is voided by ESPN. Their TV deal goes away. Boom. The SEC absorbs those 4 schools immediately. Next thing you know, it's a situation where, the deal is voided. SEC takes those 4 schools. Now the ACC is sitting there, with their hands just in their pants, not knowing what to do. You're telling me that the ACC's reaction to that would be to go back to the same place that gave them the deal that everybody knew they were getting the raw end of. And on top of that, that then gave away their teams, that cleared the way for about a third of their conference to be taken by somebody else. That conference is going to go back to ESPN, or ESPN has such a large jolt and boost coming from those 4 schools going to the SEC that it wouldn't matter if the ACC said, you know what, we're done playing this game, we're done playing with y'all, we're going to go ahead and go over to Fox Sports, or, you know, we're done playing this game, we're done playing with y'all, we're going to go over to CBS Sports or something like that, as a result of like, well, you know, y'all have given us a bad deal, y'all have taken advantage and gotten our teams to go to other places, and now we're going to come back to you again, or you have a deal in place that is going to make you such an amount of money that these 8 teams completely don't matter in the face of adding these 4. And again, those 4 are, sure, they're big brands. They're big brands. Clemson is a big brand. The University of No Consequences, we make fun of Walmart fans and say, hey, they're Walmart fans all the time. Virginia, I mean, they've won a lot of national championships. They're good at everything besides football, basically. But I think that there are 2 letters to say, hey, we're kind of not making sense here. Let's reel it back in. And let's kind of get back focused on reality here for conference realignment. KU, Kansas. Kansas has been dominant in, I mean, to say that they've been dominant in basketball would be an understatement. Like, when's the last time that they didn't outright win or have a share of the Big 12 title in back-to-back seasons? If anybody knows when that last time was, please tell me. But I think it's been quite some time. I really and truly believe that it has been quite a while for, if you're looking at, you know, when's the last time that's happened. So, again, this is not saying that none of those schools are big draws and none of those schools deserve, you know, love or whatever the case may be for them. Nobody's saying that. All I'm saying is, you know, it's a very, very interesting thing to see that for whatever reason, nobody wants one of the better schools in the nation at one of the most important sports. And yet, you know, there's other schools who have a very similar setup that folks are beating down their door to void their mega deals that they won by a mile in order to acquire that one school along with some other. You know, I as much as I don't like saying, oh, this person's crazy or da-da-da-da, I don't believe that, you know, people are I don't like labeling people as things along those lines, but it's very possible that folks have received some bad information that they're running with. And it's also possible that, you know, he's received great information and I'm wrong. That's possible. That's possible. But again, the chips falling in that way that'd be an interesting time to see, because I would wonder at that point in time, if not just a matter of personal pride for the ACC conference commissioner, you wouldn't say, you know what, it may be in my best interest to go back to ESPN, but we're not doing it because they've shown us, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't put the blame on you. That's, you know, we all know those saying. That's the saying. Or maybe that's different from fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. You know, what, however it goes, however you want to express it. At that point in time, you would be asking the ACC to sign up to be a fool for a third time in a row. You would be asking for a third time in a. So, listen, I'm not saying that I know. Again, I have told you I've reached out to the farthest reaches, to the farthest extent of where my sources are going to get me. I have heard nothing of significance in terms of schools leaving right now. I have heard nothing of significance in terms of, yeah, there's something going on outside of outside. I haven't even heard of anything like, well, it's possible outside of Florida State. I haven't even heard like, yeah, it would be sensible and possible for this school to leave. It would be in the realm of like, there's a reality where that happens and it makes sense, except for Florida State. And even with that, that was like 2 to 3 years out minimum. And then there was going to be more talks from there. But again, who knows? I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. I have a very sneaky feeling that I'm not wrong here, but we'll see what's going on. And another thing that is never wrong is Built Bar. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given you the coconut brownie chunk puffs treatment. That's right, the coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, the flavor you love, in a delicious, chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's fluffy like a cloud of coconut brownie goodness. Stop drooling and just listen to me now. They're good for you, low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and all delicious. The best part about Built Puffs is, of course, they are tasty and amazing, but you can enjoy them guilt-free because they're actually good for you. They're a perfect treat when you've got a craving, you need to satisfy your sweet tooth, or if you need a quick, healthy snack that are an excellent source of protein. So go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15. So, folks, the next thing I want to talk about is how this affects NC State, because there have been a few memes floating around of like, when NC State beats Old Dominion in the 2025 ACC championship or whatever the case may be. I'm a firm understander of the fact that the reality is you have to have a certain draw. You have to be able to make a certain amount of revenue for it to make sense for another conference to want to absorb you and all that good stuff. But this is one of those things that, to me, it seems like there's a lot of different ways that this could go for NC State. It seems like there's a ton of different ways that this could go for NC State. And in reference to, them possibly being a team that feels or gets left behind in the conference that's undesirable or whatever the case may be, even that in and of itself, I mean, you're still looking at a situation where how undesirable is the situation to be, quote unquote, left behind in the ACC as other teams leave. The reality is these conferences are realigning because, and I could be wrong here, but again, I've said for the longest, I feel there's going to an entity that separates football from everything else, that makes it a little different from the NCAA, so they function under different rules. Because even with the NIL, we're still seeing teams get caught up. Miami is now in a little bit of heat behind that. Texas A&M is a team that everybody keeps mentioning is going to be in heat. Not saying that Texas A&M is right now, but again, that's just the reality. And the next thing is, if you look at the team, people are talking about, basketball shouldn't be peripheral or whatever the case may be. Yes, it should, because again, if you're looking at teams who are leaving their conferences and why, again, look at the first five. Follow the first five, right? You've got USC and UCLA. They're in the biggest market in America. So that makes sense that makes sense. It's not about, again, it's not just about, football or basketball, but it's about how big is your market combined with how passionate is your market about these things. But when you look at the five who've left, you've got UCLA and USC as like, okay, they're not a huge football place, but population-wise, that's a big deal there. And then you look at the other three. You look at Texas and Oklahoma. Texas, the place where Friday Night Lights was a thing, and Oklahoma, which, I mean, as much as Oklahomans may hate to hear this, is basically like Texas Junior. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Texas has their own network. It makes sense for those schools. And then look at the OG of the new conference realignment. You're talking about Texas A&M, another school in where now? Texas, a place that is absolutely huge in terms of enrollment and all that. So again, you've got the enrollment, you've got the passing, you've got all that good stuff. It follows. So NC State, what can we do to not be left behind? Again, I don't think that being left behind is the worst thing in the world. But again, as I've said before, if the idea of being left behind in the ACC is like something that you're like, oh my God, how do we not do that? The fan base has to be even more lucrative than it is now. That's the reality. That's the reality. And it's not fun to say. It's not an easy fix. It's one of those things that's like, well, if you want to lose weight, burn more calories than you eat. Yes, in theory, that sounds super, super duper easy. Absolutely. That sounds like the easiest thing in the world. It's like saying if you want to save up for a house, make more money, spend less money. Yeah, sure. It's great in theory. How do you practically do it? How? And when NC State fans, again, there has to be a more concerted effort to make sure that you're watching all the things, to make sure that you're, seeing all the things as far as anything that has anything to do with NC State. Make sure you're tuned in, because there's no other meaningful way to kind of combat what we're seeing happening within college sports landscape right now. And again, this is an unprecedented time. So anybody who tells you, oh, I know exactly what's going on, I know how this is going on and all that, I'm telling you, because again, if that is the case, I just want you to find me one thing, okay? We've got 5 teams that left, right? 5 teams that left their conferences. Okay. So just find me 1 or 2 sources for half of those schools that before they left, in the time leading up, not after somebody else made a move years back. I mean, in a couple months leading up, find me just 1 or 2 sources who said these schools are probably going to be in this conference by the end of the year. These schools are going to be in this conference in no time. Find them for me. Find them. That's all I want to know. Because again, I'm telling you this as a member of sports media. I'm telling you this, and I know this as sure as the sun rises on the east and sets on the west. There's nothing folks love more than the scoop. And if you give a journalist a good scoop, they will run and tell it from the mountains. And somehow, during summer, the dog days, the slow days, where people are looking for a story, they're just praying for a story everywhere. There's all of this information coming out, and only one person has access to it. Or look at the teams who left recently. There was this massive of a move happening, and during a time where people are looking and begging and praying and hoping for a story, nobody had anything. Okay. If it's plausible that happened, but then on the other end, all of a sudden we know about everybody or anybody who's moving. If that sounds plausible to you, more power to you. More power to you. I'll also tell you I have oceanfront property on the island of Belle in Detroit. It's referred to affectionately as Belle Island or Belle Isle for short. Don't ask me which ocean is near. Just give me the money first, and then we'll go and discuss the house afterwards. And, we don't need any regulation or protections for your money there, because you can trust me, right? That's just what we're going to go on, all right? It'll be a great time getting up there, and it makes a lot of sense, okay? And another thing that always makes sense is going to rockauto.com. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto, and with the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. So why endure the often pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning about your vehicle and wait while the person behind the counter orders parts on their computer, choosing only the brand that their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when choosing Rock Auto. It's a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and Rock Auto has prices that are reliably low for every customer. So go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, right? Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices. All the parts your car will ever need, rockauto.com. So we're about to land this thing. But again, I thank Mr. Keith for giving everybody some content for the next few days and whipping folks into a frenzy. And, you know, if he is correct and these things go, well, thank you for being the first source to let us know something. Thank you for being the first place to let us know something, man. And I'm going to have you on the show, and I got to get some information out of you, Mr. Keith. I got to know who the source was. You can just tell me. I ain't going to tell nobody else. But we just need, you know, sports journalists is sports journalists, baby. Listen, I love me some Olympic sports. You know what I mean? I love them. I love them. I'm telling you straight up and down. So, you know, let me know what's going on, and we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? We'll get something ironed out. You know what I mean? But anyway, thank you all so very much for coming out, Wolfpack Nation. I appreciate you every single time. Keep on coming back and making this show what it is. And like I said, make sure you're tuning in to all Wolfpack related sports things, because if you want the Wolfpack to be in consideration to go to one of the big boys, that's the only way to do so. Peace and love, y'all. And as always, go Pack.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.